hard to eat. It makes it hard to sleep sometimes. It makes it hard just to be a normal person and function every day. It's kind of like when you start to heal a little bit, or you think you might be healing, or there's someone that says, you know, you need to move past this. Does that make you mad? It did me too, and it still does. But I want to talk to you today more about healing your wounded spirit, which is actually the title of my second book that hopefully will come out by the end of the year. When you're healing a wounded spirit, sometimes you may be sitting there thinking, yeah, well, I'm not ready to heal. I don't want to heal. Because if I heal, then you may think that that is you forgetting or you moving on, and we're just not going to do that. But that's not true. If you don't heal a wounded spirit, it's almost like fainting. Have you ever fainted? I have. It's very scary. Most of us in this room have probably felt a little blackout since the death of our child or who you're here grieving for. But when you faint, you lose time. And it works the same way spiritually. Spiritually, when you faint, you lose time. But sadly enough, that's time that you can't ever get back. So when you're healing a wounded spirit, you need to think about that. Just in the natural, when you're getting ready to faint, is it you get jittery, your palms get sweaty. You usually have symptoms that are coming when you're fixing to faint in the natural. Well, the same way spiritually, when you're going to faint spiritually and lose that spiritual excitement, you know those symptoms are coming. Maybe in the natural you forgot to eat, you forgot to drink. Well, spiritually, there are other things that you have not done in order to move on, not forget, and heal spiritually. Just some signs I'm going to give you for a wounded spirit. And this may ring a bell for somebody in here. Everybody and everything irritates you. Everything irritates you. Your children, your spouse, the dog, your happy coworker, or your friends that tell you to move on, or it's time to think about other things. Everything irritates you. You think that no one understands. No, because they don't. Unless they've lost a child, they couldn't possibly understand what you're going through. You develop an I don't care attitude. You may even say it aloud, and we have to be careful about that and who we say that in front of in our family. I just don't care anymore. I used to say that all the time. I just don't care. I don't care. Nothing matters anymore. I don't have Brian. It doesn't matter. Not realizing what that was doing to my 13-year-old son. Well, you don't care about me? Not realizing what that was doing to my husband. What, we don't matter? So you have to be real careful. And because you really don't mean you don't care, right? We care, but what we're actually saying is, I'm hurting and I'm suffering, and I really just don't want to deal with that or you right now. It's not that you don't care. We always do. You doubt yourself. You ever just doubt yourself and your ability that you're ever going to heal and you're ever going to get any peace? You just don't feel that you don't understand any happenings of what's going on or why this has even happened to you. You can't make sense of it. And your ability to move past it, you just can't do it. You lack motivation, the vision. You cannot move past any of the tragedy that's happened. And you can't find any comfort in your grief. You believe that everyone has abandoned, and you just start taking on that defeat. You know, you just get exhausted. Emotionally, you're exhausted. You go, okay, just whatever. I give up. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to do that. You're not interested in anything. And maybe some of the things that you found really interesting, you just lose interest. That's depression. Well, depression keeps you from being able to heal that wounded spirit as well. See, what you don't understand is we don't understand that people will treat you as you treat yourself. So an attitude that lacks a positive behavior, you setting yourself up for the inability to heal spiritually. We need to realize, though, as a parent that has lost a child or a sibling or a grandparent, our opinion is actually valued from our experience. And I've realized that on my journey over the last 7 years, that some people say, you know, I had somebody come up to me and they said, well, God only takes angels to heaven. Yeah, well, whatever. You know, you just don't want to hear any of that. But it wasn't until I started to reach out and help someone accidentally. It wasn't something that I just said, I'm just going to start helping people. But it wasn't until accidentally I helped someone else in their grief that I realized what I was doing. I was actually starting to heal a wounded spirit and a wounded heart that I was having. I had a coworker that called me just a year after Bryant had died. And he said, Cherie, I don't know if you can do this, but I really, really need you to talk to a friend of mine. She just lost her teenage son in a car accident about 2 months ago, and she's not doing good. We're worried. The church is worried about her. Her coworkers are worried about her. Her family. She's just sinking in a deeper, deeper depression. Can you call her? And I thought, what good am I going to do calling her? I'm just going to sit on the phone and cry with this woman, but if that's what you want me to do? He said, no, I don't think you will. I think if you'll just call her and tell her your story and your experience, I think she'll listen. Although she hasn't responded to anyone else, she's going to respond to this stranger that calls her. Okay, fine, I'll try. So after holding her phone number what felt like forever, I called her. At first, the conversation was just a little awkward. So what do you say to a stranger, much less someone you're close to that has lost a child? But after an hour-long conversation, and we talked for that entire hour nonstop, both of us talking, when I hung up for the first time in that whole year, I actually felt a little glimpse of goodness. Felt good. I was like, wow. She thanked me. Thank you so much. You have no idea what it means that you called me. I feel so good after speaking to you. Thank you so much. I don't even know what I said. But I think it was just the point that I reached out to her. But what was I actually doing? I was actually starting to heal my own wounded spirit and my own heart. What do you do to heal a wounded spirit? It's easier said than done. I'll tell you what I did, and it may not work for everybody. I said, you know what? I am going to start right here where I'm planted, and I'm going to have faith that there is something greater than what I can see, because I see no goodness in Bryant being gone. See, my son was gorgeous. My son was beautiful on the outside and on the inside. He was an all-star baseball player, National Honor Society. He wanted to be a physician. Everybody loved him. He had a ton of girlfriends, and none of them were mad at the other one. It was crazy. He was just a good kid. So why did this happen? Nothing could come from this that's good. But it wasn't until I said, you know what? Right here where I'm planted, I'm going to have the faith that somehow, someday, some way, I am going to see in the natural what God has intended for me to see. That's how I started. I refused, and it's hard to do, but I refused to have self-pity anymore. And I'm going to say that, and some of you may sit there and go, well, I'm going to have self-pity one too. You just need to shut up, Cherie. But I refuse to have self-pity. I am not going to sit here and feel sorry for myself, because let me tell you something. There's a lot of stories. I learned real quick after writing this story and being asked to speak to so many groups that this is not a small little elite group that we're in. This is a huge group. There are a lot of people all over this world, and in Louisiana alone, right here in NOLA, and I live in Prairieville. It's amazing. I'll go somewhere, I'm like, my gosh, some of the stories that I hear. It's tragic. It's tragic. But we've got to start healing our wounded spirit, and how do we do that? You're probably thinking it's easier said than done, and yes, it is. I'm not saying that it can't be done. It can be done, and I'm living proof. You can ask my mother. You can ask anyone in my family. If you would have told them that this is where I would have be a year after my son died, they said, no way. That no way. Have you seen her? She's not gonna, we're worried about her. She needs counseling. But you know how I started to heal my wounded spirit? I became a miracle and a blessing for somebody else. There is someone right now that needs a friend, and you can be a friend to them. How? Maybe they just need a phone call. Maybe all of their family lives somewhere else, and you can just invite them to lunch. They lost their child, and all their family's somewhere else, and the funeral's over, and you know how that starts to die down, and you're like, where did everybody go? Maybe you can be that person just to take them to lunch because they have nobody else, and their friends may have deserted them because they just don't want to be around to hear about it anymore. Has everybody got that? You can also be a voice. See, God doesn't have a voice. He uses us to be his voice, so your words can comfort someone else. He doesn't have the arms to grab anyone, but you have arms, so just walk up to somebody. You can be a blessing and a miracle. What are you doing when you do that? You're starting to heal your wounded spirit. And trust me, you try it. It works. When Bryant died, I could never imagine being good to anyone. And I, too, like you, grieve. Every day I grieve. It hurts. But we have to find a way to move on. And I don't say move on like forget. You cannot forget. You'll never forget. I tell Bryant's story and I talk about grief wherever I go because I said until my dying day, my son's memory will go on forever. We started a scholarship foundation in his name at his high school, and every year we give a scholarship away to a deserving senior in memory of Bryant. It makes that senior feel good, but also as a family, it helps heal us a little bit in our wounded spirit. And I'm going to close with this story. I met a lady. There were 3 women that had lost children. The first woman had walked up to her, and she's very, very sweet. She hugged her. She was those arms. She hugged her. She said, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. She said, thank you. The second woman walked up to her, and keep in mind, they've all lost children. She walked up to her, and she said, I'm going to pray for you today. I hope you start to feel better. You're in my prayers today. Thank you very much. The third woman walked up to her, and she said, can I get your address? She said, sure. She wrote her address. She thought maybe she was going to send her a card. Later on that afternoon, she showed up at her house. She had made a beautiful memory charm bracelet for her daughter and son-in-law that she had lost in a boating accident, and spent the entire afternoon with this woman at her house. What was she doing? She was healing herself by reaching out to someone else. And I think a lot of times at these meetings, they're great because you tend to almost forget